What happens when America's sweetheart, Kelly Clarkson, finds herself in one of the most uncomfortable interviews of her entire career? What began as a simple morning show appearance quickly spiraled into live television chaos that left viewers stunned and studio executives scrambling for control. This is the story of how a casual question about her personal life turned into a tense confrontation so heated that Kelly Clarkson walked off the Today Show set, leaving Craig Melvin speechless and producers in full panic mode. If you want to see how this explosive situation unfolded from beginning to end, make sure to subscribe and tell me in the comments what you think really made Kelly snap that morning. The day started like any other inside NBC's studios in New York City. Kelly Clarkson, coming off another successful season of her daytime talk show, was scheduled for a friendly promotional interview with Craig Melvin on the Today Show. The plan was simple: discuss her latest album, talk about her upcoming tour, and celebrate her continued success as one of America's favorite television hosts. The energy in the studio was cheerful, with crew members chatting easily as they set up lights and checked microphones. Expecting another upbeat and heartwarming segment, Kelly arrived early, smiling and greeting everyone she passed. She joked with the makeup artists, complimented a stagehand on his shirt, and chatted warmly with the production assistants. Known for her genuine nature and kindness behind the scenes, she brought her usual warmth into the studio. Craig Melvin, equally professional and prepared, had his cue cards ready and looked eager to sit down with one of the most loved entertainers in the country. When they both settled into their seats on the brightly lit set, the cameras rolled and everything seemed perfectly normal. Creig opened the interview with his familiar friendly energy, introducing Kelly with enthusiasm and listing her accomplishments with admiration. "Kelly, it's always such a joy to have you here," he said with a smile. "You've been absolutely thriving with your talk show, and now you've released this fantastic new album. Tell us about what inspired these new songs." Kelly's eyes brightened as she began to speak. She talked about her songwriting process and how deeply personal this album was for her. She explained how her recent experiences shaped the lyrics and how working with new collaborators brought her creative spark to life again. Her tone was warm, thoughtful, and passionate, exactly what the producers hoped for. "The thing about this album," she said, moving her hands as she spoke, "is that it really captures who I am right now. I wanted to be completely honest about everything, both the good and the hard moments. Music has always been my way of working through my emotions." Creig nodded attentively, asking smart follow-up questions about specific tracks and her tour preparations. Kelly laughed easily at his light jokes and seemed totally at ease. Everything was going smoothly, until the moment Creig shifted gears. "Now I have to ask," Creig began, leaning forward with a curious smile. "Your fans are always interested in your personal life. You've been open in the past about your divorce and what that experience was like. How are you doing now? Are you seeing anyone special these days?" The question wasn't unusual for a morning show interview. It was personal but not overly invasive, or at least it wasn't meant to be. Kelly's smile stayed in place, but her eyes flickered and something subtle changed in her body language. She paused just a beat too long before answering. "You know, Creig," she said calmly, her tone polite but a touch cooler than before, "I'm in a really good place right now. I'm focused on my kids, my work, and just taking things one step at a time. That's really the healthiest thing for me right now." Creig smiled, apparently unaware of the shift. "That's great to hear," he said. "Although there have been a few rumors about you and a certain someone lately. Is there any truth to those stories?" Kelly's expression tightened ever so slightly. "I prefer to keep my private life private," she replied firmly, still maintaining her professional tone. "I think my fans understand and respect that." It was the kind of gentle redirection most interviewers would take as a sign to move on. But Creig, perhaps sensing a potential viral moment, decided to dig just a little deeper. "I completely get that," he continued smoothly. "But your fans love you, they just want to see you happy. Surely you can share a small hint about what makes Kelly Clarkson happy these days outside of work." Kelly clasped her hands together in her lap. The camera picked up the slight tightening of her jaw, though most viewers at home probably didn't notice. "What makes me happy?" she said evenly. Is being able to come on shows like this and talk about my music and my career without having my personal life picked apart for entertainment. The air in the studio shifted instantly. Crew members exchanged nervous glances. Something was off, and everyone could feel it. Craig tried to brush off the tension with a nervous chuckle. "Kelly, I think you might be taking this the wrong way," he said lightly. "We're just chatting here. People care about you because you're real and relatable, not just because you sing or host a show." Kelly's eyes flashed with irritation, though her voice stayed controlled. "And I appreciate that, Craig. But caring about someone doesn't give anyone the right to pry into every corner of their life." The polite mask was beginning to crack. Both seemed locked into their roles, Craig determined to get something personal, and Kelly increasingly frustrated by his persistence. "I'm not asking for every detail," Craig said, his tone firming slightly. "I'm just asking what most people would expect from a celebrity interview. This kind of comes with the territory, doesn't it?" Kelly's face flushed faintly. "What I signed up for," she said pointedly, "was to promote my album and talk about my work. I didn't sign up to defend my personal choices or provide gossip for viewers." The once friendly interview had clearly soured. Craig hesitated for a moment but pressed on, perhaps trying to regain control. "Kelly, you're being a little defensive," he said, his professional smile faltering. "You've been open about personal things before, so why draw the line now?" Kelly's tone hardened. "There's a difference between choosing to share something when it feels right and being pressured to share for someone else's benefit." "I thought that was obvious." Several people behind the cameras looked visibly uneasy. The control room was likely in chaos, trying to decide whether to cut to commercial. But the cameras kept rolling. "Look, I respect your privacy," Craig said, his voice tightening. "But you have to admit, when you're a public figure, people are going to be curious about your life." Kelly leaned forward slightly, her expression serious. "So because I host a talk show where I encourage guests to open up, that means I've given up my own right to boundaries? That's a pretty strange way to look at it, Craig." "That's not what I meant," Craig stammered, suddenly looking flustered. "I just think when your brand is built on being relatable, people are naturally interested in you." Kelly's voice grew stronger. "My brand," she said sharply, "is about honesty on my own terms. It's about real connection and mutual respect, not feeding curiosity for the sake of headlines." The studio air felt heavy. Someone off camera could be heard whispering into a headset. Craig, realizing he might have gone too far, tried to pivot, but it was too late. "I'm just saying, Kelly," he said carefully. "This kind of reaction might make people wonder what you're trying to hide." Kelly's eyes widened slightly, her face reddening with controlled fury. "What I'm trying to hide?" she repeated, her voice trembling slightly. "Craig, what I'm trying to protect is my family, my peace, and my sanity. I'm trying to give my kids a normal life. I'm trying to stay human in a world that constantly forgets celebrities are real people." Craig looked stricken. "Kelly, I didn't mean—" "No, let me finish," Kelly interrupted, her voice rising. "You want to know what I'm hiding? I'm hiding the fact that sometimes I cry in my car after interviews like this. Because no matter what I do, it's never enough. If I share too much, I'm accused of doing it for publicity. If I say nothing, I'm labeled cold or secretive." Her voice cracked slightly, the raw emotion impossible to ignore. "I'm hiding that my kids ask me why strangers online talk about us like we're characters in a story. And I'm hiding that sometimes I wonder if the price of fame is worth it." The room fell silent. Even Craig looked shaken. Kelly continued, her voice quieter but cutting. "You have a family, Craig. Would you want every part of your personal life dissected and judged by millions of strangers?" Craig swallowed, clearly struggling for words. But Kelly didn't give him the chance to respond. "And do you know what else I'm hiding? My disappointment. I thought you were different. I thought you'd understand where the line is." Craig sat frozen, his confidence evaporated. "Kelly, maybe I misunderstood." "No, Craig," she said coldly. "You understood perfectly. You just cared more about getting a headline than showing empathy. Congratulations, you got your moment." The color drained from Craig's face. "Kelly, please, your intentions don't matter," Kelly said firmly. "Your actions do. And your actions today showed me that you were willing to make me uncomfortable for the sake of television." Craig looked lost. Kelly stood up slowly. "I think this interview is over," she said quietly but decisively. Craig stood too, panic creeping into his voice. "Kelly, please, let's just take a breath. Maybe we can start over." Kelly looked at him with calm finality. "Start over? You can't undo this, Craig. You can't unsay the things you said or erase how you made me feel. That's not how respect works." Craig tried one last time. "I was just doing my job. Journalists have to ask tough questions." Kelly let out a short, humorless laugh. "Tough questions? You mean invasive ones? What truth were you trying to uncover? Whether I'm dating someone? How does that help anyone?" The entire crew had stopped moving. The tension was unbearable. Kelly unclipped her microphone and set it down on her chair. "There's a difference between authenticity and exploitation, and you clearly don't see it." Craig took a small step toward her, desperation creeping into his voice. "Kelly, you're being dramatic. This is television. It's how it works." Kelly turned back to him, eyes steady. "No, Craig, what you did isn't how respect works. You betrayed the trust I brought into this space. You treated me like content, not a person." Craig opened his mouth but couldn't speak. Kelly shook her head slowly. "Intentions without empathy mean nothing. You wanted good TV, but you forgot about the human being sitting in front of you." She looked around at the silent studio. "You know the saddest part? I actually like doing interviews, but things like this make me want to stop." Craig's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Please don't let one bad interview change that." Kelly gave a small, tired smile. "It's not one bad interview, Craig. It's a culture. A culture that thinks fame means giving up your humanity." She turned to leave. Craig called after her. "What do I tell our viewers?" Kelly paused and looked back one last time. "Tell them the truth. Tell them you pushed someone past their comfort zone and they walked away. Tell them that boundaries matter." Her voice softened. "And tell them that famous people are still people. We deserve the same respect as anyone else." With that, Kelly Clarkson walked off the Today Show set, leaving behind stunned crew members and a shaken Craig Melvin standing under the harsh studio lights. The cameras kept rolling, capturing his uneasy expression as the reality of what had just happened settled in. The silence that followed was thick, broken only by the hum of the equipment and the faint sounds of the newsroom beyond. Craig finally turned toward the camera, looking like a man who had just realized that nothing about this morning, or his reputation, would ever be the same again. "So, what do you think really made Kelly reach her breaking point? Was it Craig's persistence, his tone, or something deeper about how we treat celebrities?" Subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me in the comments what you believe was the real reason Kelly Clarkson finally walked away.